Okay, just to be a pain in the ass, I'm going to ask you for the Bolton that you print out um, on the back of it of the sheet. It should, you're only printing out the first page, right? I want you to put on the sheet where you print it out on the back of that sheet. I want you to put exactly as you see in EndNote 5. I want you to put the full citation. And the point of this is I want you to get in the habit of correct citation. And the way you cite a journal article is somewhat different from the way that you cite a book, what we call a monograph. A book monograph, it's the same thing. It's just kind of our technical word for a history book, a monograph. We want to make it sound as boring as possible, right? So I want you on the back of it, and you'll have to do it by hand, I would guess. I want you to cite the Bolton essay exactly like it's cited in Note 5. And watch out for capitalization, watch out for quotes, have the quotes in the correct place. I guess, footnotes are so friggin' detailed, it kind of makes me crazy. But where it says American Historical Review, it's in italics. Obviously, you can't do italics in handwriting, so you can go ahead and underline it. But let me just stress that when you use, when you cite a journal article, it should always be in italics. Okay, this is the one exception because I'm having you handwrite it. Same with the title of a book. Always in italics, always in italics, always in italics, okay? Italics, italics, italics. Get away from the habit of underlining book titles in journal titles. Now I'm totally undermining my point, but that's okay. This is the one time for the rest of your career at UTSA where you should underline a journal title. So these little things add up. I'm telling you, it just kind of, if you do footnotes right, it really makes you look professional. I've come to believe that correct citation, I said footnotes again, but you know what I mean. The correct citation is really the beginning of historical literacy in a way that I had never really appreciated until fairly recently. And I think the reason for that is citation to me now, it's just second nature. It's just been drilled into my head for like, God, 30 plus years now. But it's not second nature to you guys, right? This is something that you're just being introduced to. And so I think myself and maybe a lot of my colleagues, we've lost sight of where we began. And we're assuming that you're where we're at. And how could you be? You're just starting. So anyway, cite the Bolton article. Okay. Now here's the last thing I'm going to ask you to do. Okay. So to repeat, I want you to print out three things. I want you to print out the New York Times article, the Chicago Tribune article, and the first page of the first page of the Bolton essay that you find and you download on a PDF and you print out the first page and put the site on the back. Okay, so those are on three separate pieces of paper, right? Then on another piece of paper, I've asked you to find the dollars over Dominion. I want you to cite it correctly, and then talk about whether or not UTSA has it and in what form it has it. The second thing, the transnationalism and the challenge to national histories in EndNote 3, I want you to see if we have the book History in a Golden Age by Bender, my mentor. And cite it correctly, and indicate to me after you cite it correctly whether or not we have it and in what form we have it. Okay, then what I want you to do is I want you to go through the article, the rest of the article. I want you to read the article, And I want you to choose 3 books, and I'm not going to tell you which 3, any 3 books, and I want you to double check and see if the UTSA library has them, has each of the books. Okay, and you put that on the same piece of paper as you put the Dollars Over Dominion site and the history and the global age. So it'd be like put a separate section, and what you're doing is label it citation search. Okay, but you can and find three books that I have cited. List those 3 books correctly, including using italics, and then indicate to me whether or not the UTSA library has it. Okay, so that's the first section. Then the second part of that, and the last thing I'm going to ask you to do for this week, is I want you to find 3 journal articles that I cite, and I want you to download the first page of those journal articles. So I want you to find 3 journal articles that I cite, and I want you to download the first page of those articles and turn those in separately. So it's a little bit complicated, I know, but if you just kind of listen to my instructions, and I'll create a sheet for you to show you the example. And the point of this is not to drive you crazy. The point of this is just to have you act like professional historians act, and be aware of footnotes, and be aware of how you can use footnotes and how you can find I'm saying it again, you have to forgive me, I'll never change, how we cite. And I want you to learn how to cite correctly, and I want you basically to become literate in the language of citation. I think for a lot of y'all, citations are just kind of very, very obscure. You don't really know what you're looking at when you're looking at citation. Well, by this point in the class, I want you to be, I want the language of citation to start being clearer to you. And let's face it, it's really not that hard. And there's a logic to it, right? And the logic to it is to allow historians to go back and create, and if someone has cited something interesting, that historians can go back and find that site very easily. And the reason that another historian would look for another site, well, there's 2 reasons. We want to make sure it exists. You know, we live in an era of accusations of fake news, right? So we want to actually make sure that the historical actors said what we say they do, that we're correct, we're quoting correctly. So that's important. But number 2, we also want to be able to create a paper trail for other historians who are interested in the same thing that you're interested in and I'm interested in. And if we find something interesting, we can go back and look at it ourselves. And we might learn something, and it might take us places. It might create building blocks for a project. So that's the point of footnotes and the point of the assignment for this week.